Welcome to the Crawcast. I am your host, George Krawczak, and this is what happened at Clash in Paris 2025. And if you like this type of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button like it owes you money. And if you want my more immediate thoughts on things, make sure to follow me on Twitter at Crawcast. Now let's get started. The first match is Roman Reigns versus Bronson Reed. And it was actually pretty funny. At one point, the fans were yelling "F you, Bronson," but Roman couldn't say if they're saying Roman or Bronson, and I just thought that was just kind of funny. Overall, I thought it was kind of a long and pretty boring match. Like, I didn't really think it was anything significant. There was one bad spot where Roman was supposed to spear Bronson, and he was supposed to turn into a power bomb, but instead, Roman just speared Bronson, and he just, like, no-sold it and then hit the power bomb. Roman, I thought it was kind of interesting how they built up Bronson Reed as like this unconquerable monster, but when in reality, he's not really that unconquerable monster anymore because he was conquered at SummerSlam. He lost at SummerSlam, fair and square. Him and Braun Breaker were already conquered. Overall, I just really didn't enjoy this match that much, and I didn't think it was that great. Um, the post-match angle was interesting. So Paul Heyman gave Roman his shoes back, and then Roman put Paul in the guillotine choke. I did think it was kind of funny because Roman wanted his shoes back, right? Well, then, once he got his shoes back, he just signed them and threw them into the audience. Then Braun Breaker came out and speared Roman through the announce table. Braun then came back and speared Roman again, and Bronson hit Roman with a tsunami, and Roman was stretchered out. And while Roman was on the stretcher, Bronson Reed hit another tsunami, and another two tsunamis, and then Jey Uso came out and initially attacked the two Brawns, and then Bronson Reed speared him. Braun Breaker speared him. So overall, I thought it was a decent match. It was not that entertaining. Nothing really significant happened, but it's interesting. So Roman Reigns, they're saying he's in the hospital, so he's getting written out of TV again, and so we'll probably see him at Survivor Series. It'll be the next time, so that's in November. So overall, kind of an insignificant, nothing happened match. But because of this attack on Roman, uh, Paul Heyman, or not Paul Heyman, Adam Pearce announced that uh, the Vision, Bronson Reed, and Braun Breaker were banned from ringside in the main event. So that's the big outing of this match. So the next match was the Wyatt Six, Joe Gacy, and Dexter Lumis versus the Street Profits, Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford were kind of arguing throughout the match. They were arguing who should start the match, and then again, they kind of teased a breakup or something might happen between the two of them, which I thought was interesting. And overall, this was Montez Ford is just so good, and Angelo Dawkins, he's good as well. And they had a really nice spot where Joe Gacy took a suplex onto the apron, Dawkins hit a swanton bomb, and then there was just a lot of great spots because the Street Profits are really good, one of the best tag teams in the world right now. So towards the end, Nikki Cross grabbed Montez Ford while he was trying to climb into the ring, and Uncle Howdy hit a Sister Abigail while the ref was distracted. Then Joe Gacy and uh, Dexter Lumis hit Montez Ford with the Plague. That's what their finisher is now called. And the match is over. Overall, it's a fairly decent match. All these guys are good workers, and a good match. The next match was Nikki Bella versus Becky Lynch for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Overall, it was just an okay match. I'd say like the WWE camera crew, they need to do a better job. So there's one point where Becky was hitting her head on the table they're doing that spot, and obviously in real life, Becky Lynch and all the wrestlers are just hitting their hands on the table and making it look like their heads hitting the table. But the camera crew was filming it in a way where you clearly see the hands hitting the table and the head's nowhere near it. And I just think the WWE camera crew just needs to improve. Like, it reminds me of at SummerSlam where Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa, they only had one good spot in the entire match, and that was Jacob Fatu breaking off his handcuffs, but they didn't show it on camera at all. And so I just think the camera crew needs to do a little bit better. And then at one point, Nikki was going for a disaster kick, and Nikki just completely missed it. And there's a little bit of debate on who was at fault. I think it's a little bit on both of them, but I'd probably lean more towards Nikki. So Becky Lynch was kind of not in position to take the move, and then Nikki Bella went for it too early and didn't give Becky enough time to get into position. Maybe you can say that Becky should have been in position and like shouldn't have waited so long, but overall I think Nikki kind of went a little too early. And then Becky hit the same roll up that she did at Evolution to win the match. And I thought it was kind of interesting because usually when you have like a roll up or something like that, it's like oh, she just barely survived, or the champion just escaped that one. But overall, it was a pretty even match. Like, it didn't feel like it was one of those where Becky survived, where she just kind of won. So the next match is Sheamus versus Rusev in a good old Donkey Brock match. Overall, this was a really nice big like Hoss Fest where the two were just beating the crap out of each other. I think it was a pretty good hardcore match. So at one point, Rusev hit a Uranagi through a bar table and locked in the Accolade, and then Sheamus hit Rusev like onto some chairs. And then Sheamus hit the white noise off of like whiskey barrels that were stacked up high. It's got to be at least like 8, 9 feet tall. And it was through two tables. And then Sheamus hit a bro kick on Rusev, and Rusev kicked out. Rusev had Sheamus in the Accolade, and he was using a shillelagh with it, and he won. And so I think that was the right call because Sheamus is not going to be a main eventer really anytime soon. I don't think WWE is interested in pushing him as a main eventer, but at least you have a shot with Rusev being a main eventer. I don't necessarily think they're going to push him to that point, but I think there's at least a chance. And so you got to give Rusev the push right now. So the next match is John Cena versus Logan Paul. Overall, this match was pretty solid, and I kind of want to address something, and I want to say I was wrong. So I think John Cena's retirement tour has been terrible, and I said I think it's because John Cena's heart's not in it. I think he's just trying to get through these matches and not get injured, and then go to Hollywood. And I said I just don't think he's trying. I don't think he cares. I think he's just done with wrestling and done with WWE. I was wrong. Okay, because a lot of people had the theory, oh, he's just putting on bad matches because he's a heel. And I didn't think that was the case. Again, I just think he just didn't care anymore. And now that he's no longer a heel, he has been putting on at least some decent work. I understand the finisher spamming, and that's not for me too. I don't like seeing like 4 AAs every match. But if that's what gets Cena through a decent match, I'm okay with it. So I was wrong, and I want to apologize for that. But then that also begs the question, why were they putting on a bad product in the first place? Because I think there is a difference where John Cena is, and okay, he's not the best wrestler, but why are they putting on bad matches? Because when you have someone as a heel, I feel like there's two types of different heels. Where when Dominic Mysterio was the biggest heel in the company, people weren't booing him because they thought he was a bad wrestler. They were booing him because he was a heel and they hated his heel actions. Whereas you have someone like Jinder Mahal, people weren't booing Jinder Mahal because he was a heel and his heel actions. They're saying, I don't buy you as a great wrestler, and I don't want to see you wrestle on my TV. Because it is not necessarily one of those things where I'm not booing you because I dislike you, I'm booing you because it's a bad, unwatchable product. And so I don't understand why they booked Cena like that, where Cena was putting on bad matches, making the product borderline unwatchable, and he was their top champion during it. Overall, this retirement run has felt like a giant failure because of the heel run. And if we could have been getting this almost every single time, like versus Punk and versus these other guys, I'm just kind of disappointed. I feel like there's a huge missed and blown opportunities. And I think that kind of like how the Nexus goes down is like, wow, that had so much momentum and it was turned out to be one of the worst things ever. I think that's what John Cena's retirement run is going to be. It had so much momentum and then ended up being a complete botch and absolutely terrible. So the main event of the evening was Seth Rollins versus CM Punk versus LA Knight versus Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship. So Punk hit Jay with a super kick right off the bat to kick him to the outside. And it was interesting because Seth also hid most of the match because he didn't want to wrestle. So the beginning was just a one-on-one match of CM Punk versus LA Knight. And then there wasn't a lot of like fatal four-way spots, and that was kind of surprising to me. So yeah, there was a lot of like, get two people out and then one-on-one match, then get two people out, then one-on-one match. So at one point, all three of them attacked Seth Rollins, and then the crowd spent most of the match singing Seth Rollins' theme song, which is kind of interesting because, again, he's supposed to be a huge villain, yet the crowd's kind of singing his song. And then CM Punk had one of the worst table bumps in WWE history. So he got hit off the apron through a table that was set up, but then he just like kind of bounced off it and it like half broke and it kind of looked terrible. I was kind of disappointed because I thought so. If anyone remembers the Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins match at WrestleMania, where Seth Rollins was hitting the curb stomp on Randy Orton, and Randy Orton like countered it into the RKO, I was hoping that him and Seth and LA Knight could have done that, where LA Knight counters the curb stop into a BFT. I thought that would have been really cool, but that didn't happen. So then Punk hit GTS on Jay, and then Seth hit Punk with a stomp. Rollins tried to hit Punk with a stomp like through a chair, which would have been really cool. But then Punk countered that, hit him with a GTS, and was going for a second one, and then Becky Lynch interfered and got Seth the win. So that is something that is kind of interesting to me because Becky Lynch is a woman, and so that kind of changes things because she's not going to help the Vision if she is indeed joining the Vision, which it looks like she is. She's not going to help him with her in-ring skills because WWE doesn't do intergender matches. So there's got to be a reason where, like, look at the Wyatt Six. Okay, Nikki Cross doesn't help the group with her in-ring skills because they're a group of men and they wrestle against other men, and so she kind of is there for support and doesn't really wrestle. And I don't think they want to do that with Becky Lynch. So one of two things this means to me is either the Vision is going to transition into a feud with the Wyatt Six, and so it'll be like kind of Nikki Cross versus Becky Lynch, or this is what I think is a real possibility. I think this is confirmation of an AJ Lee return. It makes no sense they would have a woman like Becky Lynch come back and join this group if they weren't setting her up to face another woman. And so I think at probably the WrestlePalooza, since that's going head to head of AEW, and they're making it try to make it a huge show where they're going to Brock's first match back in over a year. Maybe they'll have AJ Lee's first match back in over what's it been? Probably like 10 years, maybe 11. And I think that is like perfect for the spectacle they're trying to hold against AEW. So to me, that is confirmation of AJ Lee returning, and it'll be Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch versus AJ Lee and CM Punk. So let me your thoughts on the show. Overall, I thought it was kind of an average show. Nothing really memorable or great happened. And if you like this type of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button like it owes you money. And if you want to know my more immediate thoughts on things, make sure to follow me on Twitter at Crawcast, and I'll see you on the next one.